thank you for that at the time. All right. So let's kick this off. This is hey everybody. This is Rich Hayden. I got Matt Kirkland joining me and Matt Steinhausen. Both those guys are in Lincoln, Nebraska. This is episode 5 of Clear to Closing, and this is our little ditty on what goes on in residential real estate and all the quirkiness and funkiness associated to that. For those of you who don't know, Rich Hayden here. I work for Eagle Home Mortgage here in Northern Virginia, just outside of the train wreck that is Washington, D.C. And so let me toss it over to Lincoln. Matty K, say hi, and then Matt Steinhausen. Let's get to you. But Kirkland, what's up?
Good morning. Welcome to episode 5, Clear to Closing fans. Great to be live here from Lincoln. And today, Rich and I have a special guest on the show. Huskers, nice coverage. Got a special guest, a friend of mine, and one of my main home inspectors, Matt Steinhausen from Steinhausen Home Inspections. So say hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Also known as Jennifer Kirkland, his alter ego.
Yeah. Logged in on Jennifer's computer today. Yep.
Right. Well, hey Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Then I got a question or two about what it means to do what you do. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Matt Steinhausen. I've been a home inspector here in the Lincoln, Nebraska area for about 18 years. I was born and raised in this area. I went to school at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, go Huskers, and I got a construction management degree from the College of Engineering at that university.
Yep.
And I worked in construction for a number of years, various aspects of construction. And then my wife gave birth to children. And I took the option of leaving the workplace and starting my own business and raising the kids. So for the last 18 years, I've been a stay-at-home dad and a home inspector.
Very cool.
Awesome.
So you have, a background in construction management. Now, I went to the U as well. I did not fare well, as we talked about in a previous episode. My initial student experience was more experience than student. But I had a fair number of friends who were part of College of Engineering, construction management program, and that's pretty high level stuff. You guys get into some deep stuff that would make my head spin in terms of the engineering, the math, everything that goes into it. So if my recollection is correct, much of that was geared toward more industrial and maybe that's not the right way to put it, but kind of more like commercial contracting, as opposed to what I would consider, air quotes here, simple stick-built houses, right? Which is again, air quotes when I say simple, because it's far from it.
Right.
But what drove you, or what pushed you to the residential side of things, and what is it? If you can give like an elevator speech on what it means to be a home inspector, what is that, and how'd you end up there as a result of your choices?
You're going to get a 10-minute answer for your 2-minute question.
Awesome.
Let me start with the beginning. I wanted to be either an engineer or an architect.
Yep.
And construction management suited kind of both of those. It kind of merged those a little bit. And going back to the construction management department at UNL, it's a unique department in that it educates the students on the aspects of construction, the technical aspects. And also it gets into the legal aspects, the management aspects, personnel, motivation. It's a very diverse program. I'm an advocate of the construction management program at UNL. Yep. Because you can do so much with it. Very few people that get a degree like that actually end up becoming a home inspector.
Right.
And I'm not exclusively a residential home inspector. So to be clear, I do that with Matt Kirkland here. I do residential work, and 90% of what I do is residential. But I do commercial inspections as well, though they're not as common in our area.
Sure.
But the reason I probably focus primarily in residential work is because that's where the demand is. Okay. I also, that's where most of my background is. When I got out of college, I went to work as a contractor restoring homes that were damaged by fire, water, wind. So I was doing insurance restoration work primarily. Most of that work was in the residential realm.
That is an evergreen industry. There will always be disaster recovery work. Always.
There will.
Yeah.
There will. I went from that to becoming an insurance adjuster, paying out those claims. And that's part of the reason I got into home inspections, is because as an insurance adjuster, I was inspecting properties that people had either just purchased or had inspected, and the inspectors had missed a lot of problems, leaky pipes, bad roofs. And I decided, hey, this is an industry that needs a thorough inspector to serve these home buyers. And so that's part of the reason I got into the business. And I thought being a thorough home inspector would make me very popular with the real estate agents. And I didn't find that.
What happened?
Well, we only have 30 minutes, Rich. But, my business, to make a short story long, when I got into the business, I was raising my kids. And so I was only doing an inspection or two a week. And I put a lot of effort into those inspections and learning about my industry. And what I discovered was that my observations and conclusions and reports were a little bit more in depth than some of my competitors. And maybe I'd find problems, oftentimes, or report on problems that other inspectors wouldn't.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily make me better. It certainly creates more problems for real estate agents, buyers, and sellers when these problems need to be fixed or they affect the transaction.
Right.
So I got a reputation as a deal killer.
Sure. And so for those of you out there's two things that go into, there's a lot of things that go into the deal from a transactional perspective, right? But inspection wise, one's an appraisal. And a lot of times people get these things mixed up. They're like, well, the appraisal and the inspection and what, they're two very different needs and purposes for each. And they're not reliant upon each other, although they can cross paths. Okay. So they're not interwoven. So the appraisal, for those of you out there, that's a value question. Okay. So my house is worth X. And if it doesn't appraise, well, that's you can point to the comps and say, well, this is what the market does or doesn't bear. And very rarely is the appraiser going to look at something and say, well, because of the condition of the property, we can or cannot. And so there's two boxes when you get your appraisal back that you want to have only one of them checked, which is the value is as is, meaning no repairs are necessary. If it's subject to, that means subject to the repair of a porch or a roof or a railing and that comes into play more with government property or government loans, VA, FHA, USDAs. But an inspection has nothing to do with a loan, has everything to do with the realtor relationship and the negotiation between parties of, the carpet's a mess, the furnace is burnt out, and I'm making it super simple, obviously. I'm dumbing it way, 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 way down. But it's interesting, if I'm a home buyer, I want you to be thorough. I want you to turn over every rock. If I'm a seller, I'm like, get Matt Steinhausen the hell out of here because my little gem is perfect, right? My 1932, Rambler is great. It's the best house in town, as long as Steinhausen isn't coming. So is that kind of a fair?
I think that's
description?
Fair. Rich, people ask me, what's the difference between what you do and what an appraiser does? And what an appraiser does is determine the value of a home. And what I do is determine what the home's condition is.
Bingo.
And so I am not qualified to put a value on a home, but I can tell you what the defects are, what the positive aspects of a home are, how it was constructed, what you're going to have to worry about the next 5, 10, 20 years, and what problems the house has had in the past that have already been repaired. And that helps people give more, I keep telling my clients that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And my job is to educate them. And the more they know about their house, the better qualified they are to move forward with that purchase.
Right.
And that's my goal.
I want to speak on that. I want to tell a little story, a perfect example of Matt said he had the reputation as a deal killer, which I do not think of Matt like that. When I have clients that I need to be real thorough, I get the feeling from them that they want somebody really knowledgeable and really thorough. That's where I go with Matt. I don't, I have other home inspectors that I work with, just like I have other mortgage lenders. I can't recommend everybody to one person. So I rotate through, but Matt, sorry, Rich, but Matt and I had a client, I had a young couple, Matt will remember this one, and we went and looked at a neat house in North Lincoln, brick, kind of at dusk last fall. And from all appearances, the house looked, pretty good from the outside, but it was a little bit dark. So, and the inside had a funky smell, and there was a few things I didn't like about it, but they were thinking, we can clean the carpet or replace the carpet and we'll be okay. Well, Matt came and looked at that house, and it had one of the brick walls was literally falling off, and they'd tried to repair it a couple times, and it continued to move. The whole east side brick wall was leaning 2 or 3 inches away from the garage. It was going to fall down at some point because gravity is going to win that battle. It had snakes and snake carcasses in the crawl space.
What the hell?
It needed a new deck out back, which we couldn't tell when we saw the house at night.
Sure.
It needed windows, and when I met with my buyers after that, and we started putting the pencil to, okay, we got a new deck, $8,000. We have to rebuild that wall. Who knows how much that could be?
The engineering behind that,
yeah. And my clients decided not to purchase that house, and I wouldn't have let them purchase that house anyway. I mean, I was just like, I was convinced like this is not a good house for this young couple. First home, it was going to have. Now, if somebody wanted to really fix it up and had the money, it would have been good for them. But that house was not good for that buyer. And in that case, and I know they were thankful to Matt for doing his job the way it should be done,
Matt, so does anybody ever come to you, on the residential side outside of a transaction? Just Joe Schmo is like, I got this house, and, do you do like, I don't, let's imagine I have no idea, I don't know the business end of a hammer, right? But I know that there's something wrong with my house, but but do you get that kind of non-transactional business, and how do people reach you for that?
All the time. And I'm easy to reach via phone, email, but there are different types of inspections that I do outside of the home purchase. I do, homeowner consultations where we more or less, I do an inspection as if I was inspecting a home that they were going to buy. And we go over what the maintenance concerns are. So I make a list of issues that need to be addressed or that we need to be proactive about. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I do those types of inspections, more or less kind of a homeowner maintenance type inspection. And usually they're a peace of mind inspection because most people know more about their house than I do, even after I've inspected it for an hour or two. But I go to the places they don't go. I go on the roof, in the crawl space or basement, in the utility room, in the attic. So I'm looking at places where they don't often go. And those are the kinds of places where problems often occur that people don't know about.
Right.
Another kind of inspection that I often do that isn't related to the transaction is a warranty inspection, a builder's warranty. So oftentimes after a year after a home is constructed, there's a 12-month warranty that goes with a new home. I will go in after 10, 11 months and do an inspection to make sure the home's still in good condition and address any issues that need to be repaired. And I make a list of those things for the homeowner, and then they can provide that to a builder, more or less like a punch list, or so that they can get those issues resolved prior to the warranty expiring. And then the other kinds of inspections I do outside of the purchase realm would be a pre-listing inspection. When someone's going to preparing to potentially put a home on the market, they ask me to come in and take a look at it and tell them what they need to do to better prepare the house for the sale. Now, unlike many of my competitors, when I do those kinds of pre-listing consultations, I do not provide a written report to my clients. And that makes me different than some of my inspectors. But I think it's important that a buyer have their own independent inspection done, independent of the seller. And I think if I provide a report to a seller, the buyer's going to get that report and think, well, they've already had it inspected. I don't need to have my own inspection done.
Yeah.
And I think that's not in their best interest. I think every buyer should have their own independent inspection done. And every time I inspect a home that's been inspected by someone else prior to me being there, I find problems that were missed. So I've never had in 18 plus years as a home inspector, I've never had a single client tell me that it wasn't worth the investment, that the cost of the inspection wasn't worth the money.
What's a typical inspection cost a client?
Absolutely.
It's around $400, give or take. Depends on the size of the house and location. If it's an acreage, it's a little more because there's more I have to inspect: outbuildings, wells, septic. But typically $365 to $500.
Okay. What were you going to say, Matt?
What was I going to say? I had a client we talked about, I can't remember. I just lost my train of thought because I got a phone call. I'm on my iPhone today, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Clear to Closing.
Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I'm in a transaction and I got a call, so I had to delete it and I lost my train of thought.
We've actually,
yeah, nice. Matt's old. Yeah,
that's the iPhone 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
0.01.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Beta tester.
But yeah, the inspection cost, back to the inspections, the cost is about $300, $400, around $400. If there's, you mentioned government loans earlier. Sometimes those are a little more because we're required to do a termite inspection report, a separate report from our whole home inspection report. But I provide those services. I do not do some of the things that other inspectors do. I don't do radon testing, or lead-based paint, but that's another show.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mold remediation, all that stuff. It's a party for sure. This is odd, but we're actually a little short on time today. And I want to be respectful to both of you because we tend to talk a lot.
Yes, we do. And I got to go show a house at 9 a.m.
Matt's got to go show a house.
Yep.
So, I feel like we've just barely even started. Would you be open to coming back and spending some more time with us on another show, man?
I will. Next time, I'd appreciate some donuts.
Yeah, sorry,
Kirkland,
Yeah, I offered coffee, but Matt doesn't drink coffee, so no help this morning on that. But yeah, next time donuts for sure, Matt.
No, thanks, guys. I'd love to. It's been a lot of fun, just in this short period.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic.
Well, we always learn a lot from all the guests we have on, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come down, Matt, to my office and do this with us. It's been fun.
Thank you.
You bet, buddy.
All right, everybody. Well, for now, that'll be it. We'll be back at you in the next week. And Matt Steinhausen, I'm going to share your information out when we get this out so that people can find you and get a hold of you to get some of the goodness that you provide in the industry. So really, really appreciate you having time with us this morning. So for Matt Steinhausen and Matt Kirkland, this is Rich Hayden, Clear to Closing, and we'll see you next time.